Welcome to Rahao Wellness, where we use ancient wisdom to guide our modern minds. Rahao, a directive word found in Sikh scripture that means to pause and reflect. It invites the reader to pause and reflect on what they have just read. But if we took this simple word and applied its wisdom to our daily lives, it will change our relationship with stress, overwhelm, and worries. Let's start with the concept of pause. Now, you're probably thinking, well, of course I know what pause is. It's 2026. I know how important self-care is. But what if I told you that most of us are probably pausing in a way that's too little, too late? Let me explain this by going back in time. Way back in the day, our stress was really simple. We knew exactly when our stress starts and exactly when it comes to an end. So if a lion's coming towards me, I know I'm stressed. And I know exactly when my stress comes to an end because I've either defeated the lion, escaped from the lion, or there's not much of me left to be stressed about. But stress today is not that simple. There are so many things to cause us stress throughout the day. Emails, text messages, traffic, bills, groceries. And understanding when each of these stress moments comes to an end is not as easy as understanding when the lion is no longer a stress to us. So what's happening is we're experiencing micro moments of stress throughout the day that kicks our body into a stress response. But because we don't know how and when that comes to an end, we're constantly stuck in what's called a stress cycle. Which is why for many of us, by the time Friday comes rolling around, we're completely exhausted and we feel that we're in a constant state of stress. Now, we do self-care by adding in moments of pause for 15 minutes at the end of the day, or an hour of yoga on a Saturday, or maybe a week's vacation once a year. But now that we understand how our body is in a constant state of stress throughout the day, we can start to realize that these moments of pause that we think we're doing so well are way too little, way too late. So the first part of the wisdom of Rahao teaches us when to pause, which is every time I realize that I'm entering a stressed state. Now that leads to the next question. I've paused. How do I pause? Now, if you're anything like me, when you pause, your body might be stopped, completely relaxed. But your mind has not at all paused. It's still thinking about the next thing you have to do, the bills that you have to pay, the lunch that you're going to have to make. That is not an effective pause at all. And that is where Rahao brings us to the second part of its wisdom. Reflect. Reflect on what? Well, reflect on why you're stressed in the first place. Reflect on how you can bring yourself out of that stress state and back into regulation. Reflect on this exact moment. How beautiful the sky is, how nice the sunlight is, the plant that is beautiful. And when we pair these together, we get the full wisdom of Rahao. Pause when we recognize that we're in a stress response, and reflect to bring ourselves gently back. Now, I want to pause and reflect on something before we end. The wisdom that lies behind a simple two-syllable word like Rahao is so vast that you can only imagine the wisdom that lies behind all of ancient teachings. But as we've seen, understanding it and applying it is not as easy as it sounds. If you enjoy learning the wisdom behind ancient teachings in a fun and applicable way, then please subscribe to Rahao Wellness.